So recently I just got done playing a game called 9 Years of Shadows. It's a Metroidvania style game where you play as this woman called Europa and you're trying to break this curse that steals the color from the world and causes everything to decay and be destroyed. The game itself was an interesting experience. I would say I would give it somewhere between a 7 and an 8, just because like the game itself, while being good, has these little annoyances or little things I found to be personally annoying that held it back for me, but ultimately I think it was a solid alright experience. The thing though that I took away from the game the most was the metaphor for depression and sadness in the various aspects of the game thematically. First, the motif of color and lacking color is a perfect example of something that is strongly tied to that idea of like sadness and depression, and color versus not having color being a tool that describes how a person with these emotions might feel when the world around them looks and seems awful. Real talk with you, but I have been in a really weird place for the last couple of months, mentally speaking, and in some ways I could strongly relate to that idea of the world sort of losing its color, of becoming uninterested in life, viewing everything in this sort of fatalistic way, really becoming attached to these negative emotions and really seeing the world in this not so favorable way. The motif was interesting and I could sort of resonate with it. While I wouldn't say it's the best in terms of how it like brought out those feelings or how it connected with me, the connection was still there, and it got me thinking more deeply about feelings like these and the implications and how you might want to deal with them, as a sort of way to bridge the gap between another video I've been working on that's been taking a long time, precisely because of negative emotions and feelings, and also just the scope of the video just became so much bigger than I could have ever thought. That's like half the reason why any video of mine becomes like takes like fucking forever to make, is the scope of it is just way too big. And because I work 9 to 5, that's right, I work a regular job, it sort of gets in the way of me actually putting forth the effort to go out and do that. I get so drained and mentally fucked from trying to function at a high level at my regular job while having these feelings that when I get home, I'm just in this fucked up whack state and I don't put forth enough effort. There's also a lot of like perfectionism tied into that. The best way I would describe this would be in a way like a downward spiral. I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to. When you get into sort of a rut, you feel emotionally distressed and not in a good place, it sort of echoes out into every part of your life. It sort of spreads out and affects every aspect of who you are and how you interact with the world, like a curse across your entire life. And these sort of negative behavioral things and these effects that come from these negative feelings that perpetrate other aspects of your life make you feel even more down about yourself, which in turn feeds into all the negative shit that happens outwardly. And it's just this negative feedback loop where I think your world and the space around you begins to lose its color is when you start to lose hope that you can actually make a difference, that you can actually change your circumstances, that you can be successful at things, that anything can go right. And your brain mentally just checks out and you lose some of the will to really push forward and put effort into things like you used to. Like for me, though this may be embarrassing to talk about, I feel like it's a great place to dump this. For me, I started waking up late for work a lot. I started eating a lot of fast food. I started just generally feeling worse in every conceivable way about myself and the world. And I just stopped putting forth a lot of effort. Every interaction with a lot of people around me, IRL, became this really tense, mentally draining thing because I was just overthinking every minute aspect of our interactions. I would always just go to that negative place in my mind. And once again, I feel like a lot of people can sort of relate to that. It's a very toxic way of looking at everyday interactions, but once again, you're just caught in that downward spiral, that curse. The world itself is just becoming more hostile in your head. It's not necessarily more hostile in reality, but in your mind, everything is just losing its color. Everything is becoming more threatening, more dangerous on a mental level, and it just eats away at you and consumes you on every level. And then I had an epiphany. After really pushing myself in certain areas mentally and coming to understand more closely the difference between what's going on in my mind and what's going on in the outside world, and that just because you mentally think about something or you think about something a certain way, that it's not necessarily indicative of what the world itself is outside of yourself. I started interacting a bit more freely with my coworkers. I started really pushing myself to be more open with my thoughts and just talk to them without overthinking things. And I got some positive feedback from that. I started to notice that, hey, these people aren't fucking going to eat me alive. They're human beings too, and if you engage with them and just be open and just be yourself, there's a chance that they can reciprocate that. Not always, because there's going to be assholes out there all the time, but there's always a chance that they will just respond in kind to you and to your honest attempts. That in and of itself was a huge game changer. If you actually put forth a certain degree of effort to do certain things, there's a chance that you can have a positive outcome, that you're not just stuck with how things are or how things seem to be. If you summon the will and the strength to get up every morning, you can make a difference. You can show up on time, not just to work, but also mentally and emotionally to things. You can dye the world whatever color you feel like dyeing the world. If you put forth the effort, if you put forth the emotional strength, if you start looking at the world not through a lens of paranoia and fear, and instead through a kaleidoscope, a colorful barrage of possibilities of what could possibly happen, whether positive or strange or otherworldly or intriguing, and you just throw your dice and see what happens, you can possibly grow immensely as a person and go in all sorts of directions that you never thought you could go in, improve in ways that you never thought you could improve in. You can bring color to your world through your own efforts, through grabbing paint, a brush, and just going crazy. Now, I hope any of that made sense. I just wanted to put something here once again to bridge the gap between another video I'm working on, and I also wanted something to be here as a reminder for myself, because once again, for quite some time, for literally months, I've been mentally suffering, and I've been having and making some strides on that front, and I just wanted to share what my discoveries were for other people to see, and maybe they think this is interesting, maybe they don't. I don't know. But it was a way for me to sort of also reclaim that part of myself that was just free, that felt free to just post and just talk about whatever too. You know, throwing the metaphorical dice to see what happens. But yeah, back to more video game talk, anime type shit in the next video. And I hope you will join me, because I'm gonna start working much harder to get these things out and sharing my own unique viewpoints on these things. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helped in any way. Dye the world whatever color you want it to be.